He's never had to deal with this, Devin. He was the guy who was in the right place at the right time, the guy the Shanahan's liked the year that they had RG3 forced upon them in 2012. And when they finally got an opening to let Cousins play, he started to play well. And by year 4 of Griffin's career, because he had the fifth-year option picked up, it was guaranteed for injury. That's what the rule was at the time. They basically put RG3 in bubble wrap and said, we're not letting him get near the field this year because we don't want him to get injured and owe him all that money next year when we've decided to move on. Cousins is the guy. And then they just never, they never wanted to pay him, but they tagged him twice, and then he goes to Minnesota, and he's the guy there. And 2021, the Vikings thought about taking Justin Fields, but they got jumped by the Bears. Kevin O'Connell mentioned last week he's been the basically Dr. Doom in Minnesota when they've been trying to draft other quarterbacks the past couple of years, saying, I don't want that guy, I don't want that guy. Cousins never had a number 2, almost like Peyton Manning. Tom Brady had Jimmy Garoppolo and this guy and this guy. Peyton Manning always had a guy that was never going to play. That's how it's been for Cousins. He never had a real backup behind him who was a threat to the QB1 status, and now he does. And how is he going to react? And this is why I want to hear what Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot said about the decision to take Penix. Because my question is this a genius move by them, or have they outsmarted themselves? Let's have a listen to what they said after the Penix pick was made last night.
Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We're very excited about Kirk, very excited about this team. And Michael Penix we're talking about the future. The draft is, you look at the future and you look at big picture, but we are very excited about that quarterback room. And again, Kirk is our quarterback, but adding Michael Penix is thinking about the future.
When you get Kirk Cousins and you talk about short-term winning, you talk about winning right now, which we know we're going to be in a position to do, which we want to be in a position to do. We won't have the ability to be picking this high again with the guy that we got. And these guys go off the board pretty quickly, and we thought it would be important for us to address our future quarterback right now while we're picking this low in these moments and to be able to move forward. Fortunately enough with us, we got a Kirk Cousins in the building. We got a guy that can go out there and win football games, and we should be picking high enough. We talked about winning the South. We talked about doing some of these things. That includes going to the playoffs. You just seen 6 quarterbacks go off the board before the 12th pick of the draft. And we don't want to be picking on it anymore. And Terry's done a nice job of getting us some really good players, some quality players, but we don't want to be back in that position. So let's move forward, think about the future, address that right now.
It all makes sense when they explain it. But this gets back to the original point we made. Why didn't they tell Kirk that was their plan? Because I have a feeling based on the reaction from his agent, completely and totally blindsided, completely contrary to everything that they had said to Kirk. You're our guy. Let's go win. Let's get guys to help you win. We're going to win. Oh, let's draft a guy that's going to be on the bench while you play. Yep. And that very reasonable, that's the kind of thing, because it's automatic. Every business is a relationship business. And it undermines the relationship that was still forming between Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. And it is literally the turd in the punch bowl now that Kirk Cousins has to deal with. And it goes completely against everything that he was led to believe by the Falcons. He's the guy. Let's go win. And why didn't you trust me to tell me that you're thinking about drafting Michael Penix? If you explained it all to me and hadn't caught me flat-footed with this thing that embarrassed me, and the problem is if you talk about it too much, then what happens? Then Penix is gone because somebody jumps in front of the Falcons because they know that the Falcons want Penix. That's the challenge. But now, they've got some work to do to repair this with Cousins. They got to get Cousins to understand why they didn't explain it to him the way that he would have preferred.
Well, and it's this thought process of yes, we can win now, but it's almost like there's a cap. We're not going to be drafting at 31 or 32. We don't see ourselves in that, but we see, we're probably going to be back around 22 to 20 because we're going to be good enough to win the division. We're going to make the playoffs. Raheem Morris said it right there. We expect to, win the South and be in the playoffs, but they never said with Kirk Cousins, we expect to be contenders. We expect to be in Super Bowls. It just doesn't give that vibe. So if you're Kirk Cousins, this whole thought of they believe in me, they paid me all this money, we're going to go win, we're going to get the guys in here to go win, it kind of throws that out the door. That's not really what they're looking for. They're looking for a guy that can make sure this team is a good football team. They can have a good culture. They can win games. So then at some point, Michael Penix Jr. takes over, and he doesn't have to take over a team that's at the bottom of the league. He gets to come in almost like a Patrick Mahomes when Alex Smith was there. This team was good. We played them one year in 2015 in the divisional round. We beat them in a divisional round. So it was like, this is a good football team. They're right there. They're making the playoffs. They're winning the division or competing to win the division, getting in the playoffs, but they're just not, they need something to take them over the hill. And you feel like this is what it's setting up to be. Kirk Cousins goes in there maybe a year and a half, and he's building this team. This team's getting better. They're doing things the right way. They're right in the divisional wild card. Maybe they're winning that to get to the divisional. And then now when Michael Penix Jr. takes over after watching, you're like, okay, now we're a contender. It has those vibes. And as a player for Kirk Cousins, you just don't like that. He had opportunities to be probably different places. And now you look back and it's a couple months later and you're like, man, I probably would have made a different decision if I knew I was just the guy to get us to the dance. And then they're going to kick me out so somebody else can have a better night at the end of the dance.
That is an excellent point. I hadn't thought of the Alex Smith thing because the difference is in Kansas City, Alex Smith had been there and had gotten 4 or 5 years to convince Andy Reid and company that he could take them to the promised land, and they decided he can't. We need to get another quarterback to get us higher than a team that is just in the playoffs. And, you know, just good enough is just good enough. That's the tag I'd hung on the Vikings during the Kirk Cousins years. But the difference is he hasn't even played for the Falcons yet. And they're coming to the conclusion that you're the just good enough guy. We've got the guy that's going to take us to the promised land. So you're going to get us to a level that's like a step on the way to where we want to be. We're going to get to where we want to be with the next guy. You're just the guy that's going to get us to here. Mm-hmm. That's what the confusion is going to be. And you're right. He could have stayed in Minnesota and built on what we saw last year. After that Monday night game against the 49ers, 2 straight years of working with Kevin O'Connell. Best game of his career on that Monday night, which made the torn Achilles 6 days later even more tragic for him. But, yeah, he could have stayed there where, you know, maybe we make the right moves and bring in the right people in free agency, and I don't demand $100 million fully guaranteed and leave some money behind for Justin Jefferson and whatnot. We can take the next step. Now in Atlanta, before they've even taken the first step, he's finding out you're going to be out the door by the time we take that step. That, and again, if it makes him, this is all what it comes down to. He's pissed off, clearly. What does he do about it? Does he go count his money? Does he sulk? Does he accept that this is his legacy, that this is who he is, and I've made $250 million in my career? Or does he say, you know what, this is the moment that a different Kirk Cousins emerges, like the origin story for some superhero, even though it's happened at age 35. This is the time that it all flips and I turn into some badass that's going to go out there and deliver. One playoff win in his career. So the Falcons knew exactly what they were getting when they gave him that money. They're getting a guy who is going to get you to a certain point. And the splash of cold water for Kirk Cousins is the team, through their actions, saying that. And like I said, going forward, Devin, the challenge is, what do they say to him now? How do they deal with him now to get the relationship to where it needs to be? Or is their attitude, hey, this is big boy league.
It is what it is. Yep.
You're getting a lot of money. You unhappy with the money? The money's still coming. We don't have to not draft a quarterback. We don't even have to play you. All we have to do is pay you, and you're going to get every last dollar. Is that okay? So it's going to be interesting to see what Cousins says, just the vibe that we get. The Falcons become a great reality show team now going forward.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head. A lot of this is going to be on the energy that Kirk Cousins demonstrates the next time he's in front of a microphone and he's talking, or if he's in an offseason program, like whatever it is. He doesn't have leverage in this situation, but he sure can make this a lot difficult. If the first time he gets asked about Penix Jr., he goes and he doubles down on, I was shocked. I don't really understand. If he goes that route, I don't care what they say or what they try to do. It's going to create some kind of division or something in the locker room, because now you're going to have Kirk Cousins, this older guy who's going to be the quarterback that you saw, Kyle Pitts, all these guys were excited. And you get Michael Penix Jr. that comes in, and because of COVID and all that, he's going to be 24 next month. He's going to have a direct connection with some of those younger guys. They're going to be around the same age. How much do they hang out? How much do they throw with Michael Penix Jr. after practice or in the offs? Like, all of those things are going to start to come into play if Kirk Cousins decides to just say, I just wasn't happy with this. But I think what we've seen, I think Kirk Cousins, I think he's going to be the guy. I think some time will pass. I think he's going to say, hey, it is what it is. He's going to come out right attitude, say all the right things. But how he acts behind doors will be very interesting to see.
As someone once told me of Kirk Cousins and his leadership abilities, he couldn't eat a lion couldn't lead a lion to eat raw meat. So this is going to be a major challenge for him. He already has come out and said that, you know, in the cafeteria, one of the teammates said, you give off dad energy. And these are all very real dynamics. And then you get him on the practice field. And you know, you got Cousins, you got Penix. If Penix is close, if Penix looks better, it's going to be a big mess. And the one time we've already seen Cousins in front of a microphone with the Falcons, he basically admitted to 4 tampering violations the Falcons committed during the 52-hour negotiating window. It'll be funny if he comes back the next time and says, you know all that stuff I said in March? Yeah, they did tamper. Yeah, it did happen. Yeah, come get him. How do you like that, Raheem Morris? How do you like that, Terry Fontenot? How do you like that, Arthur Blank? That's what you get for disrespecting me. But all kidding aside, this is going to be a mess that needs to be cleaned up. And let's see how the Falcons do it, and let's see if it works, and let's see what happens with that locker room vibe. And they won't be able to keep it quiet because everybody's going to be poking around now. The Falcons become that team where, for those of us who follow football for a living and want to talk about it and analyze it and are looking for interesting stories, poking around the fringes of what's going on with Atlanta. How are they feeling about Penix? How are they feeling about Kirk? How's Kirk handling it? What's Penix doing? How's he carrying himself? I mean, this is one hell of an experiment that the Falcons have concocted. They poured some chemicals together, Devin, and it's either going to explode or it's going to work. And I don't think anybody knows at this point.
Yeah, what's the Hard Knocks rules? Can we mandate and make it mandatory that Hard Knocks is in Atlanta? I want to see Hard Knocks Atlanta. I want that.
Maybe they'll do NFC South. They're going to do full divisions in season now.
Yep.
So maybe they'll do NFC South, because I think the Falcons would be exempted because they have a new head coach. New head coach gets you a pass, unfortunately. Yeah. So anyway. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.